I never gave much thought to what it meant. I just thought it was some cold-blooded.
Want to ring the bell?
All right. Ding, ding.
Rock the bell.
Hello, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is Frank Gordon. This is, I guess, the Frank Gordon Show. For Whom the Bell Tolls is what we're calling this little segment. The idea started out as, we're going to talk about Le'Veon Bell because everyone else talks about Le'Veon Bell. And I thought, you know what? Everyone else talks about him. So I kept the segment, kept all the graphics, and said, you know what? Let's retool this a little bit. So the idea of For Whom the Bell Tolls, it tolls for tonight, the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Rams. Now, with our choice of theme music and everything that we had, old school meets new school, which really is old school. Because the concept of the entire thing is you have to score one more point than they scored in order to win the game. Now, it's done differently than it used to be, but basically that is the scenario. Now, this is going to be a game I'm going to love to watch. Even though I'm an old school kind of pound it down the throat kind of guy, you're looking at two teams that are going to score the ball in unique and varied ways. And they're going to be forced to defend the ball in unique and varied ways. So you have first team All-Pros, great players at a lot of positions, doing a lot of things, some of which whom they may not have been able to play in previous eras. For example, Tyreek Hill. I don't know if he could have played back in the 70s. I doubt it. You're trying to get bigger and stronger, and he's a little scat back. He would have been your little guy that you would have used on third down, whatever, and kick return or whatever. Now he is a full-fledged wide receiver. And again, you talk about the Marx Brothers with Marino and all those people. Okay, I got you. But the game has changed. You know, you're looking at a guy who operates in space instead of trying to run somebody over, or at least to make contact. The less contact he receives, the better off he is. Kareem Hunt likes contact, but it's kind of the same thing. And Patrick Mahomes is a quarterback who, though he can throw from the pocket, looks like he prefers to be outside the pocket roaming around. Not the ideal situation for most quarterbacks. It seems to work for him. Well, it's worked for him very well this year. So, looking at that team offensively, they thrive on speed and working on the perimeter, where it used to be you went down the middle, through the middle, to operate in the perimeter. They start outside, and then that opens up the inside. Travis Kelce down the seam, things like that. But they work on the speed game first, and then it works to their advantage down the middle, working the power game. The Rams. Todd Gurley works because they have things working around him, but he is the bell cow. And he does what he does because they're able to do that with the power game up front, with Whitworth, with Saffold, with an established offensive line. So there are two ways of looking at this. How do they operate offensively? How do they operate defensively? Well, here's the thing that I see with the Rams, and it's pretty simple. They can get in a shootout if need be. They have the offensive firepower to do that, but they also have the defense to be able to say, you're not running on us. So you're going to have to throw the ball on us. You're going to have to exploit Marcus Peters. You're going to have to exploit the defensive backs, our linebackers in space. You're going to have to do that because you ain't running on Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald. And flip side of that is, if you just want to take a 7-step drop and just heave away, not going to happen. You've got pressure up the middle. Now, the key to this game is going to be Dante Fowler and the pressure from the outside. Now, not only the pressure from the outside on the pass rush, but pressure from the outside on the jet sweeps and on those kind of things as well. So they're going to have to make sure they contain, well, that's a weird phrase to say, contain, in order to be able to keep the Chiefs down the middle of the field. Chiefs, on the other hand, defensively, hey, get a couple of sacks, a couple of turnovers here and there, they're happy, but really they just want to get the ball back to the offense. Not saying they don't want to play defense, not saying their defense is bad. It's just that, hey, let's get the ball out and get some more points on the board. So they want a shootout. They want that 45, 55-point game. You know, schemes we've never seen before. All the little inside handoffs to the tight end and all these little things, these little wrinkles in the game, which are interesting to see. Can they pull that off with this defense the Rams have? So then you add to it that this is now a quote-unquote home game for the Rams when it was supposed to be a game in Mexico City. Still a home game, but you know what I mean. So how that plays out and what they do from there, how that affects the way the Chiefs have to play. The Rams, they'll play it as a home game. The Chiefs, suddenly they're going from a neutral site game to where all of that crowd noise and all of those things that go with being at a neutral site as opposed to the home team site go out the window. Now they have to redo things. They had to change their travel schedules. They had to change where they stayed, all those good fun things. Rams went, oh, shorter week, we go home. So it will be interesting to see how it plays out and see what happens. And I think it's going to be a great game. I can't even predict it. I can't say anything. If I had to, if you hold my feet to the fire, I will say the Rams will win simply because they have a more stout defensive line. They up the middle especially. They're going to force Patrick Mahomes to roam around the outside, and then hopefully they'll be able to contain him from the outside of the pocket. That's what's I see happening. If Mahomes can get outside and use that can of an arm to get guys out in space and extend their route times, well, it's going to be tough. But I believe that the Rams will hold serve defensively more often than the Chiefs do. Again, not saying it's going to happen that often. I'm just saying it's going to be more often than the Chiefs do. So if they can get a 3-and-out or something like that, a couple of punts, a couple of turnovers, things like that, a couple of field goals instead of touchdowns, which I think they will, that's going to be the difference in the game. Now, all this analysis isn't really saying a lot because it's just made up BS right now because I really don't know. I'm just going to be interested to see the game and to recap it later. And I'm happy to be back here on the air trying to talk about stuff, which has been a long time coming. So in order to tell you where I've been and how long, I've been away for about a year. And this is how interesting this game is that it's made me come back and say, I got to do something. I've got to talk about it somewhat because this is probably, when we talk the game of the century, the game of the year, the game of the this is one that, I'm going to make time to definitely stay awake for and see. And that doesn't happen as often as it used to. I mean, this is one that I really have to see. This is a TV date that turn off the phone, don't listen to anybody else. This is the one we have to have. So if you're looking for a prediction, and I know I'm out here in Las Vegas and I'm supposed to have all the odds and angles and all that stuff, I don't. But if you're looking for a prediction, I'm going to say the Rams, just because it's in LA and they have a little bit better defense, that they are going to make just a couple more stops, a couple of plays by Aaron Donald, and a couple other players were a little, and they shut the Chiefs down on a couple of drives. That's about it. Now, looking towards the future, we're going to add a few more segments, a few things to this. We're going to try and up my time on the air. Like I said, it doesn't sound too bad just yet. We'll see what we do as the future comes along. I like doing this. I just haven't been able to. Just so everyone knows, I had an emergency appendectomy last October. Not this October, last October. And as things happen, you stick something down your throat, and it must have nicked something or whatever. And my voice has been kind of iffy for the last year or so. It's not really that it's in casual conversation, you can't tell. Being able to talk for more than 5-10 minutes at a time, full bore like I do now, without any break or without anyone else to talk to, it gets tired. It gets kind of, and then it starts to sound like not that bad, but it's just something I couldn't do a half-hour, 2-hour, 3-hour show to do. It was kind of tough to do. So I feel like I'm back. It's getting closer. So we'll see what goes on from there. But there's a lot going on here. I wanted to get back right now for this game. And then, of course, we have football, college football coming up this weekend. Games that you have to have. Now, have to see. Now, it's not as critical as it used to be, simply because of conference championships and playoff implications and all that. It used to be Alabama-Auburn. That was great. USC, Notre Dame, with USC, UCLA the week before that. Ohio State, Michigan. Those are the games that you had to see. The Ohio State-Michigan game is still that important, but the rest of them aren't as must-see TV as they used to be. Not to say that you don't want to miss them, but it's still a great thing. Now, I will focus on one because it's near and dear to my heart, the Ohio State-Michigan game. Simply because I'm an Ohio State guy. And I know some of you are going to go, well, I'm an Ohio State guy. Sorry, too tough to deal with it. This is a game that means a lot to both teams. It always has been. It always will be. Even if it's not for all the marbles, which it seems to be again this year. Because you talk to Ohio State guys, Michigan guys, and stuff, fans, people on the street. I hate Michigan. I hate Ohio State. Or this is a great rivalry and it's a great thing. However you want to look at it, it's a great game. Now, the key to this game is quite simple to me. And we'll go into this more depth as the week goes on. But it's quite simple because of one easy fact. Ohio State hasn't played well, but they still have one loss. Michigan is playing very well at this point, or better than they did at the beginning of the season, and they'll have one loss. The winner of this game plays Northwestern. Northwestern, who is not a bad team. Don't get me wrong, but this is for all the marbles to get into the college football playoffs. It should be assumed, and I know you never assume anything, but it should be assumed that the winner of this game should be favored to beat Northwestern. And just because of the way the chips will fall, as I was speaking to my brother about the other day, well, Ohio State's not that good. He's not an Ohio, even though he's an Ohio State alum, he's not an Ohio State fan, which I kind of find hard to believe, but that's the way it is. Even if this isn't the greatest Ohio State team or the greatest Michigan team, a one-loss team out of the Big Ten will get into the college football playoffs. Mark my words, write it down right here. Go ahead and take it to the bank. Do your best Beretta imitation or whatever you want to. I don't care. But that's the way it is. Simply because it is the Big Ten. Now, you flip that around, a one-loss SEC team will be in the playoffs. Who else? A one-loss Notre Dame team? Maybe. Don't count on it, but maybe. Depends on how tough of a game they play against USC and how great of a game USC plays. But that is the problem with that scenario, is it's USC not having the greatest season. So that'll be tough. Then you're looking at the Big 12, the Pac-10, Pac-12, Pac-87, whatever it is now. Who is it that comes out of there? Is it Washington State? Is the team that wins the Apple Bowl or Apple Pie or Apple Dumpling, whatever, do they get in? Is it the winner of the Big 12? Is it Central Florida? What happens? What scenario do you follow? What do you believe is going to happen? To me, it's usually the way it plays, or the ACC. So you look at it this way. If everyone holds serve that should hold serve, it's Alabama. Did I say Auburn? Alabama. It's Clemson. Winner of Michigan, Ohio State. And Notre Dame if they win. Those are the four. Now, other scenarios we'll delve into later through the week. Other scenarios include Central Florida. I don't see that happening, but it's possible. The winner of the Big 12. Possible. It would have been easier had West Virginia won last week. No. The winner of the Pac-12. Possible. It's going to take a pasting of Washington by Washington State, I believe, to get them over the hump. They're going to have to convince a lot of the pollsters, or a lot of the people, or decision makers, or whomever they are, that they deserve to be there. And that's going to be tough because, again, I still don't understand the West Coast bias. Living on the West Coast now, it's easier to see games all across the country. You just have to get up earlier. But it's not like these games are ending at my time at 9:30, 10 o'clock West Coast time. They're ending at 7:30, 8 o'clock West Coast time, which is still 11 o'clock Eastern time. Maybe 9 o'clock at the most, but still, if that's your job to watch these games, that's your job to be involved in the voting and the seating and all those things, you still get to see the game. You still get to see the way the teams play. You've got a DVR or whatever they're using now. You can see the game. That West Coast bias, I don't understand anymore. Now, you may not get the buzz that you would get from, say, hey, Syracuse is good this year, as opposed to saying, well, Boise State's pretty good, or Fresno State or San Diego, whomever. I don't buy that. The press is the same. My press is still East Coast press, West Coast press. I get the same press. I don't believe that. I understand that it may be more prevalent, say, in basketball, when there are more games on later at night that are 9 o'clock games West Coast, starting 9 o'clock games West Coast that end up being midnight games. That's, I think, purely for TV, not for anything other than that. But I don't see that there's that bias, that need to say, well, they play on the West Coast. They've seen Washington State play. Okay, don't let people snow you and saying they haven't seen Washington State play. If they're part of the decision proletariat, they've seen Washington State play. That's a load of bull cookies. So, pardon my French there, but you know what I'm saying. So that whole issue is, are they good enough to win? That's the question. And having seen Washington State play, I don't know. Can they play good enough, sound enough defense to beat some of these teams on the East Coast? I don't know. Anyone out there can say that they can stop Alabama right now. And it's an offensive juggernaut that is different than other Alabama teams only because they're going to outscore you. It didn't used to be that way. Not that they couldn't outscore you, but they outscored you because they were going to pound you into submission. You're not going to score on us. We're going to pound the rock. We're going to use, Mark Ingram or Trent Richardson or whomever we have, and we're just going to run up the gut and knock you out. That's it. And then we've got guys on the outside that can play, Amari Cooper, blah, 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 but they're going to get maybe 3 touches a game, and that's good enough. You're going to see that they have talent, but we don't need them to do much. And we're going to have a caretaker quarterback who doesn't have to light it up, and we're good. This team is completely different in that they're throwing it all over the place. They're running it all over the place. They're trying to score on each and every possession, on each and every play. And it's tough to be able to stop that when they can do that, when they've got studs at every position, when they have serious studs at every position and backing them up to have serious studs. It's tough to be able to stop them. And then defensively, you can't really bowl them over. See, the thing that happens with teams, and I've never understood this, but the thing that happens with teams that can score as easily as they can or as often as they can is that usually they've used all that cachet on the offensive end and they haven't had it on the defensive end, which is odd in a sport that is college football. You're not drafting people, you're recruiting them. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I've got my offensive coordinator out there recruiting offensive guys. I got my defensive coordinator out there recruiting defensive guys. I've got the same allocation of funds and travels and perks and whatever. And it shouldn't be that you have a team that's all offense and no defense. I don't understand it. It doesn't seem to make sense to me. It shouldn't be that you have a team that can only score the ball and can't stop, or the other way around. Now, when they get to campus, it might be a different story. But the way you recruit is, I'm going to go out and get studs on both sides. Now, if you're middle of the pack, yeah, I see that you might go, we need to get some small, fast guys and scheme around the big, slow guys. Get that. That's okay. That's how you do that. That's where the spread offenses come in and empty backfields and jet sweeps and all that crud that, a true football purist goes, ugh. Now, I'm growing. I'm evolving. I see that there is a place in the game for those things, but there are times you go, it's 3rd and 1. Just get in the I formation, run somebody over. How much practice time, how many reps do you need to be able to turn around, hand the ball off to a guy, follow the fullback, and run somebody over? Do you have to practice that more than 3 times? Here, you go there, you hit him, you run there. Boom, boom, boom. Get a yard. Now, that's just the old guy in me spouting off. Sorry about that. You know, it's a little gray here. But that's neither here nor there. But what I see is that there are times when the new school ignores what the best of what the old school had to offer. Now, again, I'm not advocating that we go back to the wishbone or the single wing or anything like that. I'm just saying that there are occasions when you need a yard, you should be able to get a yard. That's off the track of what I was talking about. Anyway, where we're going in the future of this is to say that there are going to be some more clarity at the end of this week as far as the playoffs and all that are concerned, and we'll get more in depth about that as we go. But as we go throughout the week, we're going to touch on a couple other things. A few things that popped into my head that are kind of shocking to me that we'll touch on later. Again, this show, if you follow this at all, we don't just talk about one particular thing. It's kind of a detriment to some people, but it's also a benefit to other people. that we just can't go, well, here we go talking about, some boxing's popped up in my head. Pacquiao, Adrian Broner. I'm not quite sure who's going to buy that fight, but I'm pretty sure someone will buy that fight, which is odd to me, but I also understand why. Manny Pacquiao will be 40 years old in December. The fight is January, I think it's either 16th or 19th. I don't have it in front of me. Something like that, here in Las Vegas. Adrian Broner has underachieved, to say the least, in his last few fights. His last few, I was going to call them efforts, but I don't think they were efforts. The Mikey Garcia fight was not an effort at all. Or was that Danny Garcia? He got his butt kicked so bad, I don't remember who kicked his butt. It was that bad. There wasn't much effort there at all. It was just he showed up and refused to throw punches. With a guy that's that fast, or was that fast, and you don't throw, and then you don't stop what's being thrown, you're going to lose. Now, this is going to be a fight of, it would have been a fight of styles, but at this point, I don't think either one of them have any styles. That's something for another time. Talking about baseball, the hot stove's coming to Las Vegas. I'm going to be there, still working on getting the in and out credentials. Again, having been off for a year, they don't just hand those things out like Pez, but at least I'll be to the trade show and the job fair and all that good fun stuff, and kind of get a little inside, outside look at what's happening there. Would love to be able to get into the major part of the back of the house kind of stuff and see what's going on. If you know me, I'll weasel my way into something some kind of way. But just to talk to people, set up some interviews with some people. I'm here, so I'm locally based. So whatever happens, you want to meet at the Peppercorn at 3:00 in the morning? Okay, sure. So that'll probably work out. Looking at basketball, again, NCAA basketball, huge college basketball fan. Used to be a huge NBA fan, not so much anymore. And I'm starting to see why I'm not, because I'm watching college basketball. I'm seeing the problems I see with the NBA in college basketball. So we'll talk about that a little bit. One of the things I would like to mention, it's something I have to research. It appears to me that the NBA is trying to bypass the NCAA with their new G League sponsored stuff and all these good fun things. And we'll kind of get into that a little bit more in depth to see exactly what that means. I'm not sure. I just think that the NBA wants a better product on the floor and is tired of paying millions and millions of dollars to 19-year-old players that aren't established yet. It's the problem of the one and done and the early entry draft and all that stuff, where if you're ready, that's fine. If you're a LeBron James or Kevin Garnett or Kobe Bryant or one of the European players that come over, Luka Doncic looks like he's ready to play. If you're ready to play, I have no problem with that. And it's up to the GMs and the owners to do their due diligence to understand who's ready to play. And I guess here's where you're on one side or the other side of collusion. Well, we didn't sign this guy or we didn't draft this guy because, well, someone's going to draft him. So you could all collude to say, look, we're not going to sign one and done players. If it were my team with my money, I would say it'd have to be a phenomenal talent with an unbelievable level of maturity to draft in the lottery after 1 year of college. My analogy to this is pretty simple. Say I own a grocery store or a fast food restaurant or Staples or something like that, whatever. And the kid I hire off the street, no matter how well he interviewed, no matter what potential I believe he has, I'm going to hand him the keys and say, you are the face of this franchise. When people think of this Burger King, I want them thinking of you. When people think of this grocery store, when they walk in and go, I'm thinking about getting a can of green beans and some bread, I need to go find that 19-year-old kid, and he's going to tell me the best deals on everything, where everything is. Now, again, apples to oranges, I understand that. But I was 19 once. It wasn't pretty. Fortunately, my parents aren't alive to hear me talking about this because they would say it was a mess. I was a mess at 19. I was a mess at 29, 39, 49. I haven't got to 59 yet, but okay. But point being that I wasn't ready to be the franchise, the face of anything. I wasn't. There's no way. And I don't care how talented you are in a particular arena, no matter what you do, you aren't ready to be the face of an entire multi-million, multi-billion-dollar operation. You may not think about it that way, but you are. When they bring you in for that interview, whether you're the quarterback of the New York Jets or the first round draft pick of the Brooklyn Nets, or for some reason I'm staying in New York, but you see where I'm going. It's not just can you play. Can you say the right thing and do the right thing? Are you prepared for this? We all remember, and not to throw dirt on him, but we all remember the Ryan Leaf scenario where, and he's even admitted, he wasn't ready for what he had thrown at him. Plain and simple. He wasn't ready for that. Eli Manning had grown up ready for that, but Ryan Leaf hadn't. I don't know why I put Eli Manning and Ryan Leaf in the same situation when it wasn't. It was Philip Rivers, but that's another story entirely. But that's just what came to my mind. Eli Manning had seen his older brother go through, seen his father, how he handled all that. He's ready to be the face of the franchise. Whether his personality dictates that, but he's ready. He understands what it takes to put that weight on his shoulders. I don't think that a Ryan Leaf, as he said, was ready for that. Now, that's going to, the thing with baseball is, unless you're Ken Griffey Jr. or Alex Rodriguez or one of those unbelievable, once-in-a-lifetime talents, Bryce Harper, for example, you're going to spend at least a few weeks in the minors, riding the buses and take, being the one that carries the luggage and all that. You're going to spend a few weeks in the minors to understand what it takes to be part of that environment, that teamwork, that framework of what's going on. How does the team function with the front office, with the grounds crew, with everybody else? You understand that. You just don't go from, hey, I was great in high school, to now here I am batting third in the majors. It doesn't happen. And so you don't have as many problems with baseball, I don't think, as you have with the NBA. Again, it's a soapbox thing for me. I'm not a fan of the way the game's played now. There are very few actual sets, a lot of people standing around, a lot of people that can't get the job done. Now, I've said the same thing about baseball. Now, I'm getting on a rant here. I'm sorry about that. I've said the same thing about baseball, is that you have players that are getting paid millions of dollars and know how to hit the cutoff man. Something I learned in, I want to say it was 4th grade. Any Debos out there? Hi, Mr. Debo, Mr. Vincent, those people, my dad that were my coaches. Hit the cutoff man, how to move a runner, how to bunt. We learned all that in 4th grade. And you've got guys in the majors that can't bunt. I find that hard to believe. I learned how to bunt in 4th grade. 4th grade. Hard to believe. So, and not to say that baseball is that much better, because there are some problems here, but I think basketball is a lot worse because they're allowed to do more things that they shouldn't be allowed to do, traveling, double dribbling, and carrying the ball and all that good fun stuff, but also because it has become what kind of skills do you have, and then we'll fit your skills into the rest of the team if we can, as opposed to here's what the team does, now you mold your skills around that. That's the way the NBA used to be, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I think. You played as a team, and then you accentuated what the team did by your skills, not the other way around. That's just my take on it. I'm an old guy. That's what I see. So, but we'll get into more depth about those kind of things as we go. A lot of good organizational things. Some of the things that we plan on doing, talking to the people behind the scenes that make things work. Grounds crews, flight attendants, the whole 9 yards. Who makes the thing tick? So we'll get into that as we go. A lot, again, that we have to discuss. A lot that I love to talk about. You know me, I love to talk about sports. So we get involved with other people. We've got a slew of people online. You'll be surprised some of the names that we're going to talk to. Some of the people that I'm surprised by some of the people who agreed to talk to me. Former Heisman Trophy winners, gold medalists, Olympic gold medalists, world record holders. People that have said, sure, I'll be on your show. It's like, you realize it's just me and a laptop, don't you? Okay. all right, we'll do it. So we'll see how things work out. For family, friends, and everybody that are wondering what I'm doing, this is it. I'm back on it. So enjoy yourselves. Have a good time. Watch this football game tonight. We'll start covering things the next few days, and I appreciate you being here. Now, we're also going to throw a little something at our sponsors as we go. Nothing for this time because they're not prepared for us to be here. I'm still like a month ahead of schedule right now. So we'll run things with sans ads for a little while. So we'll go from there. All right, I'm out of time, and this is Frank Gordon for the as yet unnamed Frank Gordon Show Part 16, I think. So we'll go from there. Thank you.